Hello and welcome to the GFW Radio podcast. This is the podcast for, I don't even know what date it is.
December
it's Wednesday.
13th.
December 13th, 2006. Hi everybody. We are here. Did I say who I am? This is Jeff Green, the editor-in-chief of Games for Windows magazine, and I'm here with 3 of the 4 other editors of the magazine, and they are
Ryan Scott,
Sean Elliott,
Sean Malloy.
And Darren Gladstone is away on assignment for our March cover story. He's in New York City right now.
New York City.
Yeah, New York City. Probably drunk right now. It's 10 a.m., 11 a.m. in the morning, and knowing Darren, he's drunk. Yeah, here we are. We're shipping a magazine this week, today, which is why we're late once again. And I don't know about you guys, but have we been on time with this podcast
in about a month? We haven't been on time.
Maybe we need to change the time we do this.
But it's apropos for PC gaming, you know, that's done when it's done thing.
That's right.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
This isn't like
we need to adopt that mantra.
Yeah.
Right. We'll podcast when we podcast.
Anytime there's a thread on the forums that says, "Where's your podcast?"
Right, because if we came out on Monday when we're supposed to, then we'd have to have a patch for the podcast.
The cons are obviously it's not there when you're told it's there. The pros are that when it does come out and surprises you, it's like, oh, cool. Like,
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but we are sorry. Did we even try Monday?
We did, but it just wasn't the shipping stuff.
And then yesterday I had the dentist.
So blame Jeff's teeth.
Yeah, blame my teeth on the lack of a podcast this week. So here we are anyway, Darrenless, but still ready to talk. And let's get the usual what you're playing out of the way, and then we'll get onto some more interesting and important things, like my teeth. Ryan, what are you playing? Are you playing?
There's a couple of games that I've been playing lately. One I can't say too much about yet because it's not out until January. But
Great, let's start off with a tease.
It's the next episode of Sam & Max.
Ooh.
It's about like the previous episode.
Any funnier, any less funny?
It's
puzzles better, worse, the same?
It's similar in terms of humor. You see like sort of a lot of the same locations in this game just because, it's episodic. They're doing one a month, so...
Could you play like just the second one? I mean, are they standalone in a way? You
could.
Would you want to? I mean, is there any like on last week's episode kind of thing or last month's episode? Like, do you have to buy into the whole thing? That's what I'm asking. Or could I just start with episode 2 and know what was going on?
I think you could probably just start with episode 2. Yeah.
Because I wonder if...
Well, because you have to get it on GameTap, you don't have to, like, buy the previous one or anything. So you might as well... I can't imagine anyone, like, going, I'm going to skip episode 1. I don't really care.
Right.
If that's the model they have. It's not like you have to go buy the old one.
Right. I just haven't even physically seen the model. So, I mean, I wonder if it looks like an iTunes thing where, like, every episode of a TV show is listed and you could just get the ones you want,
It's like as far as the structure of the game and getting into it, it's like a standalone episode of a TV show. You don't have to have seen the previous episode.
Okay. I wouldn't have had to solve any particular puzzles from episode 1 to play episode 2. They're just standalone games in a way.
Right. So if you're still on the fence about Sam & Max, you can jump in with this one.
So the one thing they should probably get props for is, like, they're the one episodic game that's actually now had a second episode.
Right.
Like, in a timely manner.
What's Half-Life 2? What's
Half-Life 2 episode 2?
Yeah, when's that supposed to come out now?
Late summer of 2007.
And Sin episode 2, right?
Is likely not happening now.
Oh.
So, I mean,
on that count, it's a lot of people from the dev team have left. They've
a ritual.
Yeah, they've gone elsewhere. They've now worked for other people. Some of the key people, like the lead designer. I mean, one of the lead programmers.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
And that that seems like a real world thing that's going to be constantly a problem with any episodic game. I mean, how could you possibly, ensure to fans or gamers that there's going to be future episodes if at any given point the team might dissolve?
And there's still the jury's out on why that's happening. I mean, I've personally been trying to contact the head there, Thomas Stain, and I haven't been able to get too much information. But I mean, what it seems to imply, I mean, obviously, is that Sin episode 1 didn't do well.
Yeah.
And it's the equivalent of, when you got a pilot and it comes out and people don't respond well to it. And that's bad. Yeah, I mean, I guess it works good. It means it works well in that you don't spend, 3 years working on something that's not going to, pay back.
Right.
But at the same time, when you get those cases where they're, we all know those famous great pilots or the great season ones, or there was whatever, there's like 4 episodes and then it's fantastic, but not enough people get it. And then it's just enough to give you a taste and then it's gone because not enough people got it. But I mean, so far there's no guarantees with episodic stuff.
Yeah. The Half-Life episode 2 one, though, is a little more...
Well, the guarantee. Yeah, I guess take that back. Let me go right back. There are guarantees when your episodes are Half-Life. But that's what we were saying from the beginning. You can't really judge the strength of episodic, content as a model based on Half-Life because it has a built-in, safety net.
Right, freaking Half-Life.
Right, and I mean, Valve is so slow. I mean, the odds are when episode 2 finally comes out, right, it's probably going to be great.
Right, and in addition, it's coming with to further complicate things, it's got Team Fortress 2 and Portal packaged with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, who's to say? Because I mean, I would buy if it doesn't even matter what it came with. It has Team Fortress 2, I'll pay whatever. Right. And if it's like $59, I'll pay that for Team Fortress 2 and whatever else comes with it.
Right.
So I mean, there's so many ways is that you just can't look at how I can see.
But remember our cover line for when we did the Half-Life episode 1 article? It was like a new Half-Life every 3 months?
Right.
Yes. No.
True.
So, I mean, and so that, I mean, maybe we got to call it something different than episodic content or something. Really, they're like expansions at this point or something.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, they really are,
And then,
at that rate, they're expansions.
Yeah, and then our expectations are different, But if you're going to tell us that we're going to get episodes,
right,
then I would expect something more like what we actually are seeing with Sam and Max. Right, because what was the time span between 1 and 2? Episode 1 and 2.
Episode 1 came out in November, and now episode 2 is coming out in early January.
See, that's cool.
That's really on track.
Yeah,
that's like as often as we get Lost episodes these days. So, not that I like.
And so far, according to the schedule that's on their website, I mean they're planning on hitting a monthly release.
Did we ever hear back from them about our review of that game? Because we didn't fall all over
Should
ourselves.
we have?
No, I don't think they had anything to say.
I'm
Not that I've
obsessed.
heard.
might have been just what they expected.
Yeah,
They haven't said
I
anything.
still haven't played it yet,
mean.
which stuns me that I haven't.
I'm saving them up.
It's good.
Are you? Aha. So you're doing
Really? What?
No, I don't know.
I should try. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, it's exactly what I need to be able to hop in and hop out, at least in terms of a single player game.
And it's pretty.
But
low
I just really don't
maintenance
know.
on
I missed the whole adventure game boat, and I see Ryan playing, and there's like an apothecary shop, and there are different medicines on the shelf, and all I see him is pointing at different ones. And I look 20 minutes later, and he's still doing it. I'm like, at least with whatever
Obscure graphic
at least
adventure
with
puzzles.
Bejeweled,
Yay.
them shits are blowing up, making pretty colors.
That used to be my favorite genre, and good adventure games can just be great. Adventures in logic, and they're good mind.
Yeah, they're clearly good for your mind.
your intelligence.
You obviously haven't played one in a while.
See, that's the thing. I haven't played one in so long. I'm stupider. But God, even the old text adventures were awesome. Now I'm really dating myself. But my favorites were the LucasArts ones. I think, Ryan, you're with me on that. The Monkey Islands.
Totally.
Yeah.
I am also with you on that.
Yeah. But it's been a long, long time.
So I haven't played a graphic adventure, and I don't even know how long. But that used to be like the exclusive domain of my PC playing almost.
Yep.
Let's lament the death of the
Them's
graphic
were the
adventure
good
yet
old
one more
days.
time.
Yeah.
Ryan's also playing an episodic game that's not officially out as an episodic game. It's Splinter Cell. Just in that it comes out every year, which basically means it comes out
True. Well, it comes out more than the Half-Life
greater
episodes.
frequency than the Half-Life episodes.
And how is it, Brian?
Well, it's feels like a freaking game that comes out every year. It's sort of, these Tom Clancy games are sort of Ubisoft's Madden.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because, like, I liked the first Splinter Cell, but they actually come out so often now that I'm, like, 2 behind. like I have them all on my shelf ready to play because I know I like the series.
You don't need to be. You're not behind because they're not serial stories in any real sense. I mean, you're not. I mean, you're not going to be have an impoverished experience because you missed out on whatever the events in Chaos Theory were or Pandora Tomorrow or whatever the case may be. However, you jump around.
You'll pick it up pretty fast.
I can't even distinguish between the different subtitle names now.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is which.
Really?
What's the latest one called?
Chaos Tomorrow?
No. Double Agent's the latest.
Okay, so what does this one do that the others didn't, if anything?
The big mechanic that they're trying to sell you on with this one is this trust meter that you've got. Yeah. Because you're playing Special Agent Sam Fisher, one-man army type guy. Mm-hmm. And
you still got the green thing on your head, the green glowy thing?
At certain points.
Awesome.
This time you're undercover though. You're infiltrating a terrorist cell.
Okay.
And at
John Brown's army.
John Brown's army. And at certain points in the game, you're asked to make these moral decisions. Like early on, there's a prisoner.
Oh, like an adventure game.
Well, there's no real consequence to him though.
Well, how does it work? Like, I mean, how does it work?
Break it down for us.
Break it down for us.
You have this trust meter that kind of fluctuates between
kind of like in real life.
Kind of like in real life.
Is it like Angel?
Right now, I trust you very little.
I trust the story is going to be worth podcasting about.
It fluctuates
rapidly.
This trust meter fluctuates.
All right.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So you have this trust meter that fluctuates between these dudes back home at the NSA and this terrorist cell that you're infiltrating. And depending on whether you do things that they want you to do, like, do you kill the prisoner to show your loyalty or do you not kill the prisoner? Mm-hmm. It kind of waxes and wanes between those two sides. Mm-hmm. And basically it amounts to whether you unlock a bonus level at the end. Like,
well, what happens if it dips all the way into the, like, untrust? Game over.
Like John Brown's army, say for example, you refuse to do their evil bidding, to the extent that you're allowed the choice, they're still going to keep working with you, right?
Right.
I mean, they have to. You all of a sudden don't get kicked out on the street, and you're like, hey, I got to go. This mission's compromised. Now we got to come in here with the Rainbow Six team and just like straight up shoot them. I mean,
well, there's things that you can do to where that they'll get mad and start attacking you and realize like, hey, he's not one of us. But, at that point, you're just probably going to reload your last save anyway. So it's not really all as big as the back of the box would have you think.
Is it fun, though? Is that mechanic adding something worth doing?
Not really.
In what I've played, it hadn't. But, I mean, at the same time, the game's worth playing to me. And I think I like it more than you, Ryan, because I'm able to see, even though I have played every single one in the series, I'm able to imagine that I hadn't. So, for example, if I artificially imposed, like a 2-year break on myself or whatever, or if this is my first time with the game, it's still a very well put together, product.
That's what I've liked about the two I have played.
Compare it to, a lot of the other stuff out there, and it just completely destroys, the vast majority of other, sneak 'em up games.
What I remember is just like the really, really awesome level design. Just the opportunities it gave you to try different things. They were kind of like movie set pieces, some of them in a way, like action game or action movie set pieces. Each new level gave you something. It was kind of a nice bit of candy,
right? Yeah, it still delivers in that department, I think. I mean, what for me, like the biggest frustration with Splinter Cells, and it sort of comes and goes over time, and they've worked a great deal to mitigate it. But it's always with AI in any detection-based game. You're going to want to dispute the legitimacy of whether or not you were detected. Mm-hmm. So that's always an issue,
Right.
You're trying to sneak up a sign. How the hell did he? Because it's all just based on, logarithms and all these other, on-off switches and, unlike, perception. Because you can't model it. So it just goes with the territory. But
it always bothered me, but made me very happy that a guy could walk like 1 inch away from me, but couldn't see me just because I happened to be in the black.
Right.
Like there's just no way. I mean, it was great for the gameplay,
right?
that I was able to get away with it.
That's just the danger of making that kind of game. You can't. The AI does not exist to do the equivalent of what we're asking or to replicate human perception to
Deus
that
Ex
degree
drove
of
me
fineness.
crazy that way. The one that really drove me crazy, though, was Thief. At least the first one. I heard that they fixed it a little better after that. But in the first Thief, it drove me crazy that there would be an NPC there standing under the lights. And, you know, if he saw you, you'd be busted and you'd have to basically restart the level. But if you took out your bow and arrow and shot the lights out,
yeah,
then he wouldn't see you.
That's
but
one thing.
But the guy's just standing there while you're shooting at the lights
out.
all around him. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not necessarily realistic. It's just kind of like, you know, a gameplay meme they use.
That was a suspension of disbelief I couldn't buy.
You couldn't do it.
That, like, wrecked the game for me.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Is there a co-op mode in Splinter Cell?
Well, that's the big thing that sucks about this game is that the multiplayer is completely broken
Awesome.
right now.
Broken.
Well, before you get to that, you're talking about competitive multiplayer, but
Right.
unlike
Okay.
Chaos Theory, which did offer 4 cooperative maps, it has none of that at all.
See, that was what
No
I enjoyed.
cooperative maps?
Those were awesome.
That's
in
what I enjoyed
Chaos
most
Theory.
about Chaos Theory was the co-op mode.
Mhm.
It was
And they
awesome.
just didn't provide that this time?
There's co-op stuff.
Really?
I mean, they're not
well, where you're playing like because they're iterations of the competitive mode though, where you're playing against like bots, right?
right.
Yeah, I'm talking
Chaos
about
Theory.
Chaos Theory's
not-
co-op mode. They were basically if you took a mini narrative and you crafted in the same way you would the single player campaign, and the two of you work together. You know, and you go through a map that's not, you know, like one area where you can go back and forth between it to do things, but where you more or less progress along a route.
Right, and it was different from the one in the single player because it was obviously specifically crafted for two people to go through.
Yeah, and they incorporate a number of moves that, you know, you're able to help one another. I mean, those are in the competitive version in this too. But the long answer there is that this is from Shanghai, and the reason that Ubisoft's able to get these Splinter Cell games out with the speed that they do is because they have 2 development teams leapfrogging on them, and it was another development team that did did all the co-op stuff, and word is that that's something that they're emphasizing again for the next one.
Right. I see.
Whereas
I got to question the way that they're doing that so fast. I mean, it's like you said about it being like they're Madden. You know, I mean, I felt that way about Tomb Raider back in the day when Tomb Raider went from being cool to being like, oh, geez, again. Like, don't you think that a franchise like Splinter Cell would just have more cachet if they were just a little less eager to shove them in our face all the time?
I mean, that's the gamble.
Like, it'd be more of an event.
Right.
every
It's
time.
paying. It has to be paying. I mean, it has to have been paying well for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. Just in pure business matters.
Right.
And then the other
clearly,
gamble,
enough people are willing to buy, or if the new people are coming on every year.
So it's keeping the cash flow going.
Right.
right.
But
The other gamble is like if you got 4 out in 4 years, or the other option is 2 out in 4 years. And,
Right.
and people maybe still losing interest in the 4-year period, so you might as well get 4 of them crammed in there.
I guess it just seems like, don't you think, like if there's another one now where it's going to there's going to be a diminishing return?
Clearly, there's no level of hype. You know, like when they
Right.
announced Halo 3, or when Halo 2 was announced, or when Half-Life 2 was announced, or Doom 3. Any of these big sequels that had 4-5 year gaps between them.
Mm-hmm.
3 in the case of what was it, Halo 2. You let people build up the anticipation, the excitement. You let the last game become a legend in their own minds, and then when the next one's announced, they're like, "Oh God, here comes the second coming."
Right.
As opposed to now, this is like the paper on your door every morning with this one, and it's cool, and you like reading it. You know what I mean?
But it's not Splinter Cell again.
Did Splinter
it's
Cell?
not it's just not the big. It's not the what's his name, Ed McMahon or whatever, coming to your door. He doesn't even bring it, but one of those old ass dudes brings a check to my door for Publishers Clearinghouse.
But did the original Splinter Cell have?
Some old dude brings me money.
Did the original Splinter Cell have like that cachet to support that? Because I was never really on the Splinter Cell.
Yeah, it
train.
probably did. It did the first one.
Was it
I don't
a Halo?
remember. I love the first one. The first Splinter Cell to me was the first Clancy game that I was actually ever able to get behind.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't like the squad based stuff. It's like too complicated for my brain, like adventure games. But and everything else. But I could get behind the one man stealth thing. So, but I can't remember if the first one had that kind of hype. Did it? I don't remember now.
It did because
I
think it did.
It does now.
it was incredible. I mean, the light work that they were doing
Yeah.
with it was just incredible
Yeah.
at the time. And as after Metal Gear Solid had basically come out and reinvented that genre, excluding on the PC side where you have Thief and stuff, and sort of brought the attention back to that. And then here was something in that category that was different, that was grounded in reality and just looked remarkable. And at the time, all the things we take for granted now, night vision goggles, thermal goggles.
That's right.
Those were all cool. You're like, wow, look at all these ways to see it. And these are the exact same things that now when someone tries to tell you, hey, Rainbow Six Vegas, we got thermal goggles. I mean, it's like big whoop. It's like saying that you've got like, a trigger on your gun or something. You're so used to it.
Yeah.
And while they are, I have a quick aside on those things. In some cases, they can really be great. I'm playing some of Rainbow Six Vegas single player now. I'm getting around to that. And there are times where definitely you create the conditions yourself in which you're going to end up using those. They would be the equivalent of if you were the one who shot out the lights and then switched to your goggles, or if you threw a smoke or a tear gas grenade and switched to thermal so you could continue to fight. But what sucks is so many games forced you to use those modes. It's like you get here and all of a sudden, so what it's expecting you to do is switch to your night vision because it's dark out now.
Yeah.
But you just end up, it's just the same old thing, except it just means compromised enemy AI, and it means looking at everything through a pea soup filter for the to the next hour or something.
Well, and
straining your eyes, looking at monochrome.
Like some of your complaints of Gears of War, like you get to the place where there's the turret, and then you have
and
to
you just know. Yeah, I mean at that point, yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean it's a decision forced on you, and then but it's got the extra like aesthetic bug in that it's just ugly looking. You don't want to look through those filters very long at anything.
Right.
You want to minimize that. I mean, I'm sure people that are wearing NVGs, on night missions by the end of the night, they can't wait to take the damn things off, and like turn on a light in a room,
Right. Yeah.
That's so much Splinter Cell talk.
Yeah, and I'm sure like the Ubisoft, if the Ubisoft people are listening to this, like, why are they bagging on our games all the time? They're like banging their heads against the wall. And I think this is actually a franchise really that we all like. I mean, I think it's pretty undeniable that the Splinter Cell games are awesome for the most part. I guess I'm just like bringing up this like, should they slow it down a little? Kind of, and I don't think there's a yes or no on that. I think that's a tough question to know what is the sweet spot between this building up the hype, not wanting people to forget you, needing to bring money into your company, which is a valid thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I propose that we talk about Left Behind.
I guess I just don't want to see another Splinter Cell before summer. That's what I'm saying. Because I need to catch up on the rest.
Well, and then in the off seasons, being the year, the 11 months that you don't have a Splinter Cell game, you get to play it on your portable, on your cell phone, your DS, your PSP, all these.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Just
so we're going to
David.
take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about Left Behind and Firefly.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the 1UP Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
Want more Extreme Tech? Well, now you can join the crew of expert analysts for a weekly podcast. They'll give you the lowdown on the latest technology news, product reviews, and let you know what's coming up. Just go to extremetech.com to subscribe.
And we're back. Sorry.
You need to spice it up, man.
Yeah, we're a little low key.
We're down here today.
Is it because of Darren not being here?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because we're tired and
We're tired. It's the morning. Nobody has gas.
we need something like Left Behind to get things going.
All right, so we're going to talk about Left Behind. Should we remind the listening audience what Left Behind is before we talk about it and
Yes.
talk about why we're talking about it?
Yes,
Please.
yes.
Okay. Left Behind is the RTS that came out fairly recently, right? I mean, we've been looking at it for a while, but I think it just hit the
I think
store
it came out
shelves.
within the last month or so.
It is an RTS that is a explicitly religious game. Explicitly, I don't want to say. I think saying pro-Christianity would probably bother some Christians.
And of course, we've had this discussion before. We
have.
can skip through that, but basically, because there's there's no one single monolithic version of Christianity or
Right.
what constitutes Christianity. Now, once
Right.
you start presenting something and saying that this represents Christianity, then you're into the trouble
Right.
of the other people saying, well, no, it doesn't.
You're right. We have talked.
I mean, that's the whole thing.
This is a Christian RTS. It's not being sold. I guess it is being sold in some retail stores, which is one of the things we want to talk about. But it's being sold in other ways too. This company had actually contacted us to review the game, like they did all the other gaming media, and we actually chose not to review it. And reviews editor Ryan Scott, you want to explain why?
There's a whole other discussion.
Am I getting too off topic?
I don't know.
For you?
That seems like but let's hit it.
Is that too off topic?
Why didn't you review
Let's
it?
just do it quickly, and then we'll get on to the fun stuff.
I mean, we basically said no, we don't want to review it because just the controversy that goes along with it, and no matter how we presented it, I mean, somebody was going to take offense, I'm sure.
To me, it's just more like a boutique game. It's not like we know our readers aren't.
Was that
play this
wishy-washy
game.
though to not review it? I mean, I this is like news to me. I wasn't.
You didn't know?
No, I mean, I'm on the front of the book side, so the review stuff sometimes is news to me. But it just seems kind of, I mean, like clearly you're afraid of what? You're afraid of offending Christians. You're afraid of them, arguing that your review is inaccurate because you had some kind of bias against the subject matter. I mean, what are I mean, clearly there are a lot of ways things could go wrong, but if you went about it,
I think
the right way, couldn't you guard yourself against any of that kind of criticism?
I guess you could. I guess I mean, I personally just felt like our readers, who's going to really want to play this game?
Right.
It's like the way we decided not to review hunting games.
What about is it?
Ago.
I mean, but do we know? What if it is an incredible RTS? I mean, we could look at other sites and they're telling us maybe not so much. But what if it? Say, for example,
Good
what
point.
if it was? What if StarCraft when it came out had more or less these sorts of themes, or they're Hindu themes, or
so
some
what
other
if this
sort
is
of
the best
religiously
RTS
charged?
since StarCraft, and we just don't know because we're biased?
I'm
against
putting that
religious
hypothetical
games.
out there.
You could be right.
Because you're afraid of being
What about that, Ryan Scott, reviews editor? What if we're missing the boat on the best RTS of 2006?
Well, sucks to be us.
Great answer. You're fired.
Well, I mean, for what, you don't have to agree with whatever I mean, regardless of who you are, if you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you're a Catholic or whatever, and you just whatever, or if you're a Jehovah's Witness and your doctrine does not conform perfectly to this, I mean, you could still, you go into it and regard it as a fiction. You look at it as being a fiction.
I mean, this is based on a series of novels. It's not based on the Bible.
In the same way that, you don't need, say, a Muslim can read like Paradise Lost or whatever, and still say, hey, this is great. Or Blake, Blake's poetry is great. I don't.
Or what if I
buy
went
into a single
StarCraft?
bit of this, but I appreciate it for how it's working.
Okay. I mean, I might have gone into StarCraft with a really passionately pro Zerg outlook on life.
In that case, what if it was L. Ron Hubbard's StarCraft? I mean,
so maybe we screwed up. Maybe we should review it.
That's a question.
The difficult thing, I think, the challenge there that we're avoiding, and I suspect, is not being confident that we can address the intersection of content and between the actual gameplay and the way that things are executed, and then the thematic, the everything else going on that makes the game what the game is. Big brain fart here.
If the unit balance is actually awesome and the tactics are cool, does it matter that the theme of the game is that you got to kill or convert non-Christians?
And that's a big challenge because we always, I'll just speak for critics at large, are very capable of going in with the Consumer Reports angle and saying this works or this doesn't. These little Satanists that I'm fighting get stuck in buildings and don't come out when I fight them. But when you get to the point where we don't do so well, or very often, at least at large, is say, well, what does this all mean? How does this all come together? What is it saying? How does it? What do we think about this thing other than just the mechanics of it was fun to shoot that, or this guy AI worked well, or this environment was shady, or and that's where I think the real criticism is at. And this could have been a model game to
So maybe we should try to play it, and like I can just pretend that like each different unit type is like something like from a fantasy or alien universe,
right?
Well, so like the Jews can be the Zergs, say.
But that's there, though. I mean, you shouldn't ignore that. I mean, if you are reacting to it that way, I mean, you shouldn't ignore that. I mean, that should be a point in the review, I think,
Well, right.
Say, for example, if you played, I played some, when the Vietnam shooter phase happened, a year and a half ago, and there were like 5 of them at once. Some of them, I think, made some very poor decisions in terms of how they presented the people involved in that tragedy. And And that has an impact on your experience of the game. In the same way, you don't go see a Gibson movie, a Mel Gibson movie, and say, the cinematography is so well, the acting, the performances are excellent and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's a good movie because of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's never that. It's always the sum of the parts, And you say, hey, this stuff actually matters. And if you do object to these things, it's definitely your right as a critic to say so. You're just not speaking for everyone, and no critic ever does.
Right. I think that's maybe why when it gets right down to it, we probably didn't review it because we were thinking like, well, if you're not a fundamentalist Christian, or not even fundamentalist, that's not right.
If you're a Christian that doesn't prescribe to Hayes and the other co-writers,
you're going to be offended by this game, so let's not bother.
Yeah. But if at the same way, if you're an ultra conservative believer in any number of faiths, you might take grave offense at the contents of Doom or something,
Yeah.
So let's not bother. Mm-hmm. You can't just run away from things because they're controversial.
We can if we're cowards.
Right. There's so many things in all games that someone can take offense at.
We can because we're cowards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we were reviewing, if we were a magazine that was reviewing movies, like, would we not review The Passion of the Christ because
you're Jewish?
Nice analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, like what if you're a Jewish critic? I can't review this movie. What you do is you put your perspective on the table. Mm-hmm. Say, here is where my biases are because of my subject position, because I'm a Jew reacting to this Christian movie, or whatever the case may be.
You don't get to play the other side, do you?
But we're not alone. Who else is running away from this? This is what we're bringing the story up. Who else is running away from it in your news story?
That's right. Actually, we brought out a printout that was in the San Francisco Chronicle yesterday. The headline was, "Convert or Die Game Divides Christians. Some Ask Walmart to Drop Left Behind." So that's why this whole thing came up in the first place. I'll read the lead here. Liberal and progressive Christian groups say a new computer game in which players must either convert or kill non-Christians is the wrong gift to give this holiday season, and that Walmart, a major video game retailer, should yank it off its shelves.
Did they ever hold a similar protest or boycott discussion over the fact that Walmart was selling the books, the novels?
Yeah, I wonder, and I also, it makes me wonder, how closely these books...
ridiculous is this?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know Walmart sells those books. And
has made a great deal of money selling those books.
Right.
But now, what is the difference now in the game? And what is the assumption on the part of these concerned consumers that a video game has got some kind of great persuasive power that a book doesn't?
Right.
That a medium that's been developed over, centuries and centuries.
Nobody reads books.
And all the rhetoric that's come in, even prior to, even illiteracy, that is somehow... irrelevant in light of the great persuasive impact of gaming.
Right.
And again, too, it's like, what? Don't sell products that persuade people to think things that disagree. It doesn't even make sense on that front.
Games are easy targets.
This thing says here that actually the books are incredibly popular with teens.
Uh-huh.
So the part of the story that I've read like 3 times now and I still don't understand is this. It says, it's describing the game, and it says, in Left Behind, set in perfectly apocalyptic New York City, the Antichrist is personified by fictional Romanian Nicolae Carpathia, Secretary General of the United Nations and a People magazine sexiest man alive. What the hell?
Well, now I got to play this game.
How random is that? Players can choose to join the Antichrist team. Yes. Okay, I like that. But, of course, they can never win on Carpathia's side. The enemy team includes fictional rock stars and folks with Muslim-sounding names, while the righteous includes gospel singers, missionaries, healers, and medics.
This is what we get into, because we brought the instruction manual with us so we can look at some of the units, the specific breakdown of units in a bit here.
I like this quote, too, and then we could get to that, yeah. When asked about the Arab and Muslim-sounding names, Fritzner is the president of Left Behind Games. When asked about the Arab and Muslim-sounding names, he said... the game does not endorse prejudice, but, quote, Muslims are not believers in Jesus Christ and thus can't be on Christ's side in the game. Quote, that is so obvious, he said.
But I think
so if you have a Muslim-sounding name...
That guy is at least being true to his convictions. He's not being wishy-washy, because I think a great number of people that will say... they're not taking their faith seriously. I mean, this is but for his line, for people that follow that line of thinking and the way that they interpret the Bible, they get from it that it says, in order to, be saved, you have to believe in Jesus Christ as the Savior and all those things that you're used to hearing. And then that means then if you don't, then you're one of those that's going to be left behind. So, I mean, he's just saying whether it's a whole bunch of hogwash or not, I mean, at least he's being consistent with his own belief system rather than coming out and lying in order to try to sell you something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one last thing from the article. At the end, it says, Plugged In, a publication of the conservative Christian group Focus on the Family, that's a nice name, gave the game a thumbs up. The reviewer called it, quote, the kind of game that mom and dad can actually play with Junior and use it to raise some interesting questions along the way. Yeah, I wonder what some of those interesting questions are.
Yeah.
Why are the Jews going to hell? Well, son, that's a good idea. Good question. Fritzner said that is precisely his company's ultimate goal in offering the game, to bring parents and kids together to talk about the Bible. He said most teens are playing video games, so it was natural to turn the books into one. Okay. So, Sean, Elliott, you're studying the manual quite intently there.
I just wanted to, I just think it's funny as heck. So you look at some of the breakdowns. In addition, it doesn't list the unit, the specific individual unit's name, so you can't see the Muslim-sounding stuff here. But I thought this was funny. The basically on the Antichrist side, your units are basically trained at colleges. So, like, when you're building,
so if you're an academic,
right? When you're building your bases and your to deploy your units from, if you're on the Christian side, you train them at churches and whatnot, but everything comes from all the special units and units for the Antichrist side are trained in colleges, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, you can't trust those colleges, those college-educated people.
Or supermarkets.
Supermarkets?
And mega markets.
Wait, supermarkets are forces for the Antichrist?
They are in this, right?
Christian shop?
And then just like some of the abilities, like the standard ability for all the Antichrist is swear. Like, so instead of like, MP5 and whatever, it's like they swear. So, and everyone has got that ability. So it's like, and then that's opposed to the pray ability. So you just go, I mean, you have a bunch of these guys like running around like, or whatever, and like, that's their
vein.
Yeah, right.
So that's how you fight them? Fuck you, Christian guy.
Yeah,
that's your attack.
That's how you fight him. And then let's look at some of the other the specifics of these are funny.
Can you win if you're on the
instead
Antichrist
of like
side,
the healers?
Or do you just lose?
The healers are like doctors that are trained at hospitals and clinics and stuff, as opposed to the dark heroes are, as opposed to faith-based centers or whatever.
Okay.
So again, I mean, it's like what? I mean, go to the hospital if you want Satan to cure you. I mean, like so. I mean, and then it gets even more ridiculous. I mean, you've got the equivalent of like, let's see, let's just read some stuff here. Where was I? Trying to mark some pages. Okay, you got a level 1 pretender. He's a classic street performer with a little global community propaganda thrown in for effect. The pretender plays off his ability to entertain, but he's really more like a behavior monitor. He's there to remind everyone that the global community has eyes and ears absolutely everywhere. So keep this in mind. The next time you see the dude spray painted and silver paint and they got the little like whistle in his mouth doing a robot, he's really part of the Illuminati checking up on what you're doing down on the wharf.
Wow. Goddamn right.
Bush. like the fire juggler. That's like the devil's own third eye checking you out. You've got
actually makes sense.
And then the activist, he's a level 2.
The activist.
The activist.
Yeah.
He's the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing, and he's certainly not all that he seems.
Aren't there like Christian activists too?
His main role is definitely not peaceful. The activist is capable of actually sabotaging buildings that the global community designates as undesirable. So the activist is really what they're about is getting like whatever like buildings condemned that the global community or Illuminati or whatever doesn't like. I mean, I've at least heard the terms of like getting rid of the. I mean, in like the Art Bell circles where the black helicopters and all that, they're basically trying to depopulate the country so that they can turn large areas of rural America into concentration camps. And at least they go somewhere with that. But here, they just wanted the buildings down.
Yeah,
right.
It's like I don't like that. Safe.
So that's a unit? The activist.
That's a unit.
So
Others
is that like my stealth? Is that like my saboteur?
Yeah, that is sabotage. Okay. Yeah, and then you've got musicians. So level 1 is just like basically a roadie, and they can swear and sing. Then you get to a band member and recording artist who can actually swear and play.
Oh, that's
and
dangerous.
then like the guru, the level 3 musician of the devil is the rock star or pop star. So the problem with these popular rock stars, according to the manual, is that they've found their 15 minutes of fame delivered courtesy of the Antichrist himself. Capable of connecting with and deceiving a huge audience, the rock star pop star is a force to be reckoned with, usually surrounded by band members. So it's like a mob. Like this is a mob you run into.
Evil rock musicians.
All those nearby stop and listen to the deceitful lyrics. But this is kind of too much fun to me. I'm going to have to play this.
I know. You're reading this and I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever played anything like this.
Yeah. And then you got a cult leader. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's pretty
But
good.
anyway, yeah, I just had to point out, it just seems funny that like we got a game that's telling us that college is where you raise the devils. That's
so we've learned from this that education is bad.
right.
Music is bad.
That scientific medical training possibly bad. I'm not
bad.
sure if it's a...
But video games are good.
Those are good lessons to teach Junior.
Right.
You're right, Mom. I'm not going to college.
So, yeah, I think that's about that on that, but...
I think,
Yeah, I think we should review it.
okay.
I mean, clearly you just need... The reviewer's got to be confident in being able to differentiate and explain his or her perspective and, you know, what's at stake here and how much it's going to matter. Because it's going to matter differently to everyone. To me, I think it's pretty funny that there's, like, that activists in college or whatever are, like, all the Antichrist in here. But, I mean, you could very well be upset about that, too. You could be like, well, this is...
What I want to see is I want to
and-
see the cutscene if you play as the Antichrist and you win. Like what happens? There's like a big rock concert.
You can't win, right? Is that
You can't win?
Is that what that article said?
Well, that sucks.
There's a whole other gameplay thing. It's just like, why would I pick the team that can't win?
Yeah, that's a bad gameplay mechanic. You beat the last level.
It's because you're deceived.
You lose.
They should deceive you into
You're
thinking...
still going to hell.
They deceive you into thinking that you
What's the
can
lesson?
win, but it's not revealed that you can't until it's too late.
Well, we just spoiled it. Don't play the
Wow.
Antichrist.
That's
kids.
the twist. So we've got some other news about controversy, games being controversial, or game content.
Yeah.
Are you reading the manual now? Oh, you should also note that big, huge games, the makers of Left Behind have licensed the Rise of Legends people to do their next engine.
Oh my goodness.
Or they like licensed the Rise of Legends engine itself or something.
Oh, okay. They license the people.
They licensed the people. I can talk.
They licensed God.
So, I wonder where the programmers went to school that made Left Behind.
Not college.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to move on to some other news stories?
Yeah, let's
let's do
move
that.
on.
So we get that. One thing that's pretty interesting in light of our discussions here about how we're going to crack down, and this is like a consumer-based initiative, right, to get Walmart to stop selling this.
Right.
You know, on the other side of the world, in China, BBC reports that, you know, as we know, constantly monitoring, you know, what's permissible in game content, not. But recently, I'll just read from the BBC World report. So China is enforcing more monitoring of online games after some were found to contain banned religious or political material. Let's see. China has more than 23 million online gamers, generating revenues of more than $850 million a year. Distributors must now obtain approval before releasing new games. Companies must also submit monthly monitoring reports confirming developers have not added forbidden content. So the latest round of enforcement was prompted by a rash of problems with imported online games, some of which contain sensitive religious material or refer to territorial disputes. So this is interesting in that, I mean, I kind of wonder exactly what the deal is here. I mean, are we talking about the game content itself as it was shipped? Contains, you know, religious references and territorial disputes. Territorial disputes makes me think some of these games are from China. I mean, are from Japan, rather.
Yeah, that's a weird
rather than United States.
What kind of
religious
what
stuff
kind of online game talks about territorial disputes? I mean,
Chinese games do.
Okay.
Like they've got
times.
the big Chinese naval MMO, and it's very much about territorial disputes, and then also just the history of you know, Japanese invasion of Manchuria and whatnot. So there's got to be something there, but I think this is interesting because it also applies, I mean, to stuff that's added after the fact. And when you're dealing with MMOs, which is where all the gaming is really occurring there, that's where the revenue's generated. I mean, if you're generating revenue on software in China, it's basically because you're paying a subscription fee. Because
also, let's pause for one moment to note that number: 23 million people. playing online games.
Right.
Holy crap.
Think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's astronomical in terms of, how many people are playing over here.
That's a lot of people not doing anything productive with their lives.
Right. So,
how many people did it take to make the Great Wall?
I think the back on track, I think it's interesting because you're going to have to, in MMOs then, is what I'm pointing out, is that so much of the content is player generated. Mm-hmm. And it's like this big, it's almost like another version of the hot coffee thing here where it's like you decide, but there the question is, it doesn't matter who made it. There they can just say that. It's just that it exists and we're going to stop it. But so does it mean that you've got, party members playing MMOs just patrolling around, basically Big Brother inside of a game, just to make sure that everything that's going on is
that's weird.
Is government approved.
There's some of that exists in this country, but I guess it's not government monitored.
No,
but each company is doing its own
Blizzard
monitoring for whatever sexual content or political comment, or
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening here.
Yeah, so that happens
the
here.
Government doing it is a whole other thing.
It is a whole other thing. Yeah.
And
the moral is, thank God we live in America, where we have our freedoms. Man, them Chinese are backwards.
So another piece of news, and this is reported by the Washington Post, and I got it from gamasutra.com, great website, and it has to do with cracking down on word of mouth and viral marketing, especially as it pertains to video games. So,
what's the name of that website? If our listeners have not seen this one,
is it Gamma or Gamma?
No.
Actually, both. First of all, let's give credit to Gama Sutra.
Okay, Gama Sutra,
which is an amazingly great
that's
gaming site.
That's what I want to give them a shout out for. I mean, just anytime I'm browsing around there, constantly surprised and delighted by the types of stories I find.
Yeah, some of the most intelligent gaming conversation going on all the time, as opposed to podcasts where people fart on air.
Right.
But also, what I did this viral ad that has caused this latest round.
Okay, so we'll get to that. I mean, just quick, I'll read from their news story. It's basically that the Federal Trade Commissioner, FTC, has spoken out against word-of-mouth and viral marketing, indicating that companies must make it clear when actors are posing as consumers or are customers in order to promote a product. The Consumer Protection Agency warning includes any kind of peer-to-peer communication, such as posts on weblogs, MySpace, or popular video sites such as YouTube. Marketing schemes are already covered under existing FTC regulation, with a new warning posted as a staff opinion, pointing out that violators could receive cease and desist orders, fines, or civil penalties. Now, we all know about some of the bigger ones, like for Halo 2, they had the alternate reality gaming promotion, which was called the Haunted Apiary by some, or I Love Bees by others, which was the name of the site. But here, what's bringing it up now is that there's this All I Want for Christmas is a PSP campaign. And so clearly it's Sony, but it's being presented as some kid's blog type entry about how he wants to get himself.
It's like all street,
right.
Now that was a million to me. That's a totally different thing than I Love Bees.
Right,
like I Love Bees doesn't feel insidious to me the way this does.
Because I Love Bees, it's clear that it's. I mean, if you really think the difference between you could say, hey, there's this dude who really wants there's this chump who really wants a PSP, or is there some person who's like apiary is haunted and who's like trapped up in some kind of global conspiracy or whatever? I mean, you could believe that, but it's almost like if you do, we're not going to protect you for your own stupidity, But here, this is the kind of thing where, and even on message boards, we deal with this on our own forums where someone comes in and they present themselves in certain circumstances as, hey, I'm just another one of you guys. I'm here to talk to you guys and chat. And then eventually they start doing certain things. They start posting about what's your favorite snack food when you game.
What's your energy drink of choice?
Right. And this kind of thing. Or, hey,
God, I love Mountain Dew.
There's this
you?
Yeah. There's this great offer here and there. And then, and it turns out they're basically paid promoters of a product, but they're under the guise of,
Lance.
Mm-hmm. And in the same way, we kick them off as soon as we find out what's up or make a good deal fun of them.
Yeah, we just say, actually, Mountain Dew tastes like urine, fucker. And you're banned.
But basically, I mean, I'm definitely for that, at least the disclosure part of it,
Right.
If you're going to do this, you have to tell someone, because, I mean, do you really want a world where every time someone talks to you, you're suspicious that they're trying to sell you something? I mean, like,
I already am.
Like, guys, you're walking down the street and some, like, a cute girl comes up and just says, hey, how you doing? I want to talk, and then, like, just some elaborate thing. But it's like, do you really want to think that only time anyone wants to talk to me is because they want me to go buy some piece of crap, you know.
I mean, they already kind of have that, like...
should, enlist, every homeless person in SF to just be a viral marketer.
Yeah.
Shout at you, get out of PSP!
There actually is. Did you see advertising? So there's this local guy here. His name is Frank Chu. I don't know what his...
that guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, his nickname is 12 Galaxies.
Oh, the 12 Galaxies.
And he wears a suit, basically, and he has this sign with just all sorts of, random...
nonsense.
Nonsense put on it. 12
Emperor,
Galaxies, the Zygotronic Galactitron enters on this and that.
Yeah.
And
just carries the sign around everywhere.
He's become a legend in the area to the point that, on Halloween, you'll see people dressing up as him.
Right.
And he just appears in the most random places. So, it'll be a news report on some, nudist get-together or something, and you just see him walking by. The people are blurred out, their parts, and then he walks by in his suit holding his sign. He just ends up anywhere.
Yep.
But recently, he's got advertising on the back of the sign.
He's been sponsored now.
Yeah, he's got sponsored.
This crazy man brought to you by Adidas. That's kind of genius.
Yeah.
But yeah, this PSP thing is particularly...
No, it's actually it's Rasputin music, which is
it
almost
is.
Fitting, because their logo is Rasputin.
You're right.
Wild-eyed looking nut job selling music, and they've got
perfect
Frank roaming around. Another thing about that guy,
billboard,
because he's pure PC gaming, is that he just stand on the corner 12 Galaxies, Zygotronic, or whatever.
There's something about this PSP thing that really, it struck a nerve in the online community, and I think for good reason. It really just feels wrong. I mean,
he was our version of Lonely Girl.
It is. You're right. It is very much like the Lonely Girl.
He cared about this guy.
There's a comment section too, and I don't know. It's really gross.
I mean, when I first saw it, it was already, exposed as a fraud. So it wasn't I was going to this guy's blog anyway. Who was? Who went to this guy's blog and was like, yeah, man, I want one too.
Yeah. What a cool rap.
Right. Well,
that made me want
it's
one.
While the internet, does create these opportunities for this sort of thing, it also has created a vast community of skeptics and watchdogs. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, within minutes of this, some of the bigger sites, some of the bigger gaming forums and blogs and stuff are immediately calling this guy out.
Right.
So that's good too. But I think it's,
So we shouldn't do our own for Games for Windows magazine. Some YouTube video with some guy rapping about how cool we are.
Yeah, how everyone.
I gotta get a subscription to Games for Windows magazine. You feel me? Yeah. I'm glad they got exposed.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm glad they're cracking down on that sort of thing.
Of course, it was yet another in an ongoing series of bad days for Sony. But what are you gonna do?
It's just a parade.
And then they also had the thing with the fake ass graffiti.
Yeah,
they had the dudes with the guidebook in one hand and the crayon in the other.
They got to just stop with the.
What
fake
you write?
crap.
PSP, son.